Donald Trump, of course, in this major five-head move, blowing up international trade, has made the European Union reconsider their position and also even forced China's hand to basically raise its prices for its electric vehicles so that it doesn't outcompete the European market too much. All right. EU pauses retaliatory tariffs following Trump's trade U-turn.
The European Union says it is putting its retaliatory measures against the U.S. on hold after President Trump backed down first and paused his tariff plan for 90 days. The president of the European Commission said the pause is, quote, an important step towards stabilizing the global economy. European markets all solidly higher this morning. A lot of green there. Let's get right to CNN's Melissa Bell live in Paris. And, you know, the EU is basically taking a little bit of a victory lap, saying this is what happens when we stick together.
That's right, and hoping to stay unified on this. And what's interesting about their response to this 90-day pause, John, is not just that they're pausing what they were planning to do with regard to the reciprocal tariffs, which has been paused, but they're also stopping the rest of their responses. So, for instance, American tariffs on steel and aluminium of 25% remain on European companies. Europeans agreed yesterday on their response to that. They've decided to pause rolling out that response.
What? You're not a radical. What bothers me? Hasan becoming a radical trans feminist would be nice, to be honest, but I don't even know where he stands on actual feminist theory right now. Yeah, this is what I mean, guys. This is literally what I mean. This is what I'm talking about, which is that, like, no, there is a limit to my output here. Okay, there's a limit to my brain. There's a limit here, and that limit is, you know, be nice to women. That's it. Like, if you think I'm gonna be I don't know, equipped with like dworkin thought, then I don't know. Probably not gonna happen. CDU and SPD are cutting social benefits as you predicted. Nice. Yeah. Your take about auto AGP is still bad? What? No, my take about AGP is not bad because you 100% agree with my take on it. You're just too stupid to recognize what I just said. And you immediately heard me say it's okay to put bad concepts because human beings are bad and wrong in movies, but you didn't understand what I was saying, and you just lasered in on one side of that commentary and immediately started dialing it up to 11. I'm not saying this is an appropriate thought. I'm simply saying inappropriate and wrong and reactionary thoughts should still very much be placed in works, in normal works of art, because they're a part of the human condition. Having said that, Mike White's placement of the AGP rhetoric was clearly from a reactionary perspective, where he tried to intellectualize a transphobic opinion, like ooh, I'm a bad boy. Look at what I know. That's it. That's all I'm stating. So it was a shallow analysis from an outsider. Okay, and most people don't even know what the fuck I'm talking about. Anyway, shut up. It's crazy to hear Normans talk about AGP. Trans people barely do unless they have 4chan brainworms. I know. That's why I said, like, this is deep trans lore. You know what I mean? It's just like deep trans lore. It's just outdated, old school, fucking Nazi created, like initial trans research that's just like anti-trans. That's what it is. All right, let's keep going. We're talking about the EU and tariffs.
On the automobile and auto parts industry remain on Europe. For now, Europeans are also holding back. So a lot of restraint really being shown by the European Union here. They've really stopped all of the measures, both the ones they'd agreed on and the ones they were considering for now. Have a listen to what the Spanish Prime Minister had to say in response.
Nobody wins a trade war. Everybody loses. For this, the measure announced by the US administration, pending review of the exact details, seemed like an open door for negotiation, and as such to an agreement between countries.
So Europeans hopeful that negotiations can be reached, that negotiations can begin on all of these matters, but they also explain that they're going to continue to work together to look at very firm measures on both the automobile tariffs and the so-called reciprocals, so that if in 90 days, when that period comes to an end, should the American ones kick in, the Europeans should be ready to respond, and to respond very harshly, as we discussed yesterday. But for now, very much looking to see whether the
EU and China were looking at setting minimum prices on electric vehicles. So this was a major problem that, if you recall, I talked about quite extensively. Ursula von der Leyen was a year ago complaining about how China was stealing Europe's lunch money with their incredibly cheap, incredibly affordable, and very competitive electric vehicles. And if left unchecked, that the entire European manufacturing would fall apart because people would simply go and purchase Chinese vehicles, because it's impossible for European markets to compete with the affordable, accessible, and also good quality Chinese vehicles that are out there, readily available. Donald Trump, of course, in this major five-head move, blowing up international trade, has made the European Union reconsider their position, and also even forced China's hand to basically raise its prices for its electric vehicles so that it doesn't outcompete the European market too much. So this is one of those moments where I think the EU is playing ball. They're playing ball with China a little bit. EU Trade Chief Sefcovic, Chinese Commerce Minister Wang have agreed to look into setting minimum prices rather than duties for China. Made EV imports Commission spokesperson says. I did not think that they would do this, I will admit. And I still don't think that they're going to follow through on this. I think potentially this is a move by the European Union to show America that they are not afraid of China, in an effort to bring America back to the table and reconsider the way that it's treating the EU. I would be shocked if the European Union was like, actually, we're not afraid of Chinese style governance. We like what they're doing and we want to do it ourselves as well. That would be shocking, because that would undermine American hegemony in spectacular fashion.
Equals the beginning of negotiations.
Yeah, this is very much a case of what happens next. Melissa Bell in Paris today. Thanks so much for being with us.
Trump's reversal
I think this is a bluff.
led to an historic surge on Wall Street yesterday. U.S. markets, though, right now, let's take a look. Well, I'm going to go this direction. They are not in surge territory, if you will. Futures are down across the board. The White House is spinning this as all a kind of big win and part of a grand strategy by President Trump. Others, though, are saying that, well, he caved, he backtracked, and he retreated on demands that only he made, and a self-inflicted wound. The nation's biggest bank, JP Chase, is still sounding the alarm, even in the face of this move by Donald Trump about a possible recession this year. CNN's Zain Asher here with us now to talk about, and there has been a lot. I mean, what happens next is where everyone's mind has to be, especially when we're looking at futures like this. I mean, what is expected now with this U-turn, backtrack, and buckling of President Trump?
So I spoke to one analyst last night who said to me, can we please have a normal day on the markets?
No.
Just one normal day, because we have earned it. Looking at where futures stand right now, the last I checked, Dow was down about 500 points or so. I'm going to guess, Kate, that today is not going to be that day.
Yeah.
Now that everyone has had an opportunity to really sort of sober up and digest what we saw yesterday, I mean, obviously everyone has gotten over the shock, positive shock, but the shock of Donald Trump pausing these tariffs for 90 days. But now that everyone's had a chance to sort of sober up, the reality is setting in. You look at the facts. We're seeing a 10% tariff still on most parts of the world.
That's still historically high.
That is
that's
still
a big
historically
deal.
high.
Yeah.
And on top of that, 25% tariff on steel,
Right.
on aluminum, on autos as well, and not to mention the minor detail of triple China, with whom we import about $400 billion worth of goods every single year. What I think is really interesting is that you look at Dow futures, they're obviously down. You contrast that with what's happening with European stocks. If you could just pull up European stocks, squarely in the green. That's obviously because they're reacting to the 90-day pause, but also the fact that Europe is saying that they're not going to retaliate anymore. What I think is also interesting is what's happening with Asia stocks. Obviously, you would anticipate that the Asian stocks who are seeing tariff relief, so we could just...
What is this? EU? I really disagree about your EU China take. There's almost no fear of socialism from China. Rather, it's the potential of China acting like Trump by leveraging their monopoly on certain trade goods in the EU. Yeah, I just have a much more... Look, I'm Turkish. Okay? And as a Turkish person, my first interaction with Western chauvinism does not come from the United States of America, but instead comes from the European Union. So as a Turkish person, I'm also a little skeptical even when I hear Euro-communism coming from the likes of Yanis Varoufakis, who I love and admire. But when I see initiatives like DM25, sometimes I'm a little bit skeptical about that sort of thing because in my experience, in my lifetime, what I have always seen from the European Union is a commitment, not necessarily to upholding human rights and values or whatever, but a arrogant attitude surrounding their positioning as the bastion of liberal capitalism. Okay? It's just, this is how it's perceived here. All I'm saying, yes, EU is more fiscally conservative and capitalist, but the public discourse is really not about socialism. Yeah, but we're not talking about public discourse. We're talking about European elites. We're talking about governments. When we're talking about governments, the wishes of the population are irrelevant. Okay? I mean, look at the Israel situation. Do you think that the overwhelming majorities of all Western nations now have the same exact opinion on Israel as their leaders? No, of course not. Every country is turned into a fucking Gulf state at this point, where the population literally despises Israel by pretty large numbers, as a matter of fact. But the governments are like, no, what do you mean? We love Israel. Shut the fuck up. So for me, I think I'm saying that I have a little bit of resentment for sure that clouds my judgment from time to time. But I also have, I will always maintain a healthy level of skepticism against European leadership because at the end of the day, the European Union is a vehicle for capitalism. It is. That's what it is. That's what the European Union is there to do. And so I think that when push comes to shove, I still believe that European leadership will not decouple from the United States of America and find themselves in the hands of China. Because if China became the hegemonic power, then European capital would be undermined in that process because they would have to restructure their own internal governance to reflect Chinese values or the Chinese economic order. They would have to, can you imagine every European country behaving like China, having command economies? I mean, that would be amazing. I would love that. I'm just saying that probably wouldn't happen. I 100% believe the EU will decouple from the US if they make any moves towards taking Greenland. That would be awesome. Not the taking over Greenland. That would not be awesome. But I do think that, I mean, this is what I've been saying. I've been saying that the EU is also a fairly large consumption engine. Okay? America is as well, but the EU also is a pretty large market with a lot of purchasing power as opposed to the rest of the world, as opposed to the global south, right? That would be amazing if they did that. If they turned around and said, you know, this American dominance is over. We recognize that there's a new game in town. We've been around for much longer than the American government has. You know, you got what, 200 plus years? We've been around for thousands, and it's time. It's time to go with a new master. Now, that one can only dream of a future such as that one. Okay? One can only dream. But I do think that there's still a lot of, Orientalist framework. I talk to a lot of people that are not American. Let's just put it that way. I talk to a lot of people who understand the European Union, who just, I would say, the attitude that they reflect oftentimes with what they say and what they don't say is that they're still very much fearful, like extra fearful of China. They consider China to be a really scary, like they're still afraid of Chinese dominance. Why are you talking of US, China as masters? What do you mean? Because those are the two different poles right now. Those are the two different global hegemonic superpowers. One has been the only game in town, especially post the dissolution of the USSR, and the other one has grown in spectacular fashion over the course of a very short period of time. Daily reminder that you don't know anything about the stock market. Stay in your lane, little bro. I mean, it's true. I don't. I still maintain the position that the stock market is gambling, and also money is fake. Value is so made up, especially with our global financialized economies. I mean, and I use the example of the fake tweet that caused the market to rebound for like and recover $4 trillion in value over the course of an hour, only to have it evaporate once again, as the perfect distillation of my argument. Is a perfect example. I do really believe it. Like, it's not, I mean, I said this before. It's like cryptocurrencies is like playing roulette with a blindfold on, versus the stock market is like playing blackjack, where the odds are higher in your, the odds are higher, but it's still not in your favor. And also on top of that, there's still the element of, it wasn't fake. It was just leaked early, and Trump couldn't take that. I don't think it was leaked early. I think that that was something that they were presenting. And it was a brief moment where, like, I forget who it was, but one of Trump's guys went on Fox News and said, yep, no, Trump is going to do what he's going to do. And then everyone was like, oh, that's enough for us. Yes. And then they just kind of went along with it. But my point is, my point is, the very fact that like that can create trillions of dollars worth of value instantly, and then only have it like evaporate, that in and of itself is like, it doesn't give me a lot of confidence in the stability of the stock market. I think if this isn't to say that there wasn't a time and place where like the stock market was entirely speculative. That's not what I'm saying at all. I think that just like the heavily financialized global economy has turned it into this thing that operates on confidence. There's still fundamentals behind it for sure. That's why I say it's different than like playing roulette with a blindfold. It's more so playing blackjack. There's a rule book that you can follow. There are people who can count cards. You know what I mean? So there is a way to win. And there are fundamentals, there are basic fundamentals, but like ultimately there is still probability that it's still gambling. Motherfuckers, if your market has substance, then Hasan is no threat, so stop fixing your, what are you saying? Hasan, it's been an hour, wrap up the both sides bullshit. I'm so confused. Stop sending me the new no way, no how banger Jay Mershon. Okay, I'm not going to watch it right now.
Just pull up Asia as well. Asian stocks that are seeing tariff reliefs, for example, the Nikkei up about 9%. But Kate, check this out. Even the Shanghai Composite, right? Chinese stocks also rallying despite the 125% tariff increase. And that indicates to me that Chinese investors saw what Donald Trump did yesterday and are saying to themselves, well, look, this kind of indicates that if the pain is great enough for Americans, be it investors or perhaps later consumers, that Donald Trump is willing to back down, that he is willing to negotiate. So that's why the Shanghai...
Dude. I think anyone that thinks that there's any stability from Donald Trump is on fumes at this point. They're huffing maximalist copium. They're on crack cocaine and fentanyl. They're doing a speedball with crocodile on the side. Donald Trump has demonstrated over the course of this past week alone that he is a madman, hell-bent on destruction and incredibly stubborn, and does not give a fuck. Yes, there are moments where he will scale back a little bit, but as demonstrated from the reality that he still tried to functionally create a trade embargo against our largest trading partner, that in and of itself is like, how do you look at that and go, yeah, no, this guy will really scale it back? It's like, no, he said he was going to kill you and then he chopped your leg off. That doesn't mean that you're in a better position overall than before he came into the room. You're legless now. He took one of your legs out. How the fuck can you sit there and be like, well, at least he didn't kill me? Like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? You got one leg now. You got a stump. Put down the crack pipe. they're so desperate to be like, this is the problem, okay? This is the problem with like institutionalists, institution defenders, where they're like, this entire thing can't collapse, right? On the whims of a madman. Like, that can't happen. There's no way. And I think people are just going to go to their deaths saying, oh, no, he's just, there's surely something that he will respond to. See, he reacted in the way that we wanted him to. It's like, no, he didn't. He actually didn't do that at all. Did you want the art of the deal to be severing trade ties with our largest trading partner and simultaneously applying universal 10% tariffs to all of our other trading partners? Basically a de facto 10% sales tax increase, inflation, automatic inflation. This isn't, if you look at the situation, you go, well, this surely spells order. You're insane. You're an insane person. There is nothing orderly about what Donald Trump has done this fucking past week. The only reason why you think there's order is because you want to desperately believe that there is something going on there, that he's responsive to something, anything, and not simply insane.
Shanghai Composite ended the day there in the green.
And on that, that's why there's been a lot of really interesting reporting about how China has been preparing for this for a long time and is ready to unleash even more pain as it could be a very long fight.
One of the funniest aspects of Donald Trump's madness, by the way, and transparent graft, was when he just straight up did insider trading. Like, a bunch of his homies, and we'll find out who, especially those in Congress, when they, in like 9 days, they have to reveal their trade positions. Okay. But the insanity was just right before Donald Trump made his announcement, releasing the tariffs, okay, or putting a 90-day pause, like, people started trading like crazy. That's insane. Now, the expectation there is supposed to be, well, the SEC is going to look into this and they're going to punish these people that are doing insider trading. Donald Trump maybe also could be the first person who's ever done outsider trading as well, which was when he was like, buy now on fucking Truth Social. But if you think that the SEC is going to look into this, you're out of your dang mind, because as we know, the administrative state is completely captive to Donald Trump. There's no regulatory agency that can like go against the big dog at this point. Here, Donald Trump's audio was caught on this video explaining that his billionaire friends made billions yesterday with tariffs and stock market manipulation. The SEC needs to investigate. Yeah, good luck.
This is Charles Schwab. It's not just a company, it's actually an individual. And he made $2.5 billion today, and he made 900 million. That's not bad, because he's in financials.
I mean, I get that there's plausible deniability to what he's saying here, right? He could be like, come on, the markets are looking good. You made billions. But yeah, it's robber baron speedrun. Oh yeah. NASDAQ call volume spiked minutes before the 90-day tariff pause was announced. Not a good look at all. Yeah, I wonder. Not a good look at all. How did that happen? Chat, how did this happen? Dude, it's so funny. Like I said, it's transparent. The graft is transparent, okay? It's out there, is open, is for all to see. He did this with cryptocurrency first, where he just straight up was like, I mean, he did a fucking crypto rug pull before the day before his inauguration. He did a fucking cryptocurrency launch, okay? It was insane. And then what did he do? He did he's treating the stock market like it's fucking cryptocurrency now. It's just straightforward robber baron shit. And it's funny because like the average American is too busy living paycheck to paycheck to recognize fucking broad daylight. Okay. And they're living paycheck to paycheck. They're too invested in the fucking podcast sphere and think that like trans people are doing this, you know what I mean? Or they don't even think about this at all. So yeah, when Caroline Leavitt says this is the most transparent administration ever, she's right. Like, they are transparently fucking you over. And unfortunately, many people are too invested in the minutia and silliness to actually recognize that they're getting fucked over. CoffeeZilla also covered it. Is this market manipulation? We'll talk about that as well. We'll watch this as well, but let's keep going.
What are China's options?
Okay, so a couple of things. This time yesterday, we saw China in the same boat pretty much as the rest of the world. They had a little bit more in pain inflicted on them compared to everyone else, but they were more or less in the same boat. Now they are completely isolated, and that is a strategy deliberately designed by Donald Trump to make the Chinese regret retaliating. In terms of who blinks first, whether it's going to be Donald Trump, whether it's going to be Xi Jinping, Kate, your guess is as good as mine. But what I will say is that we've talked a lot on this show about American consumers and the fact that they are going to suffer in all of this. What I think is also important to note is that the Chinese economy has been suffering for quite some time. They're dealing with slower growth, slower GDP. They have a real estate market crunch.
What the hell? Yo, that was crazy. What the hell? What the hell? What the heck? That was weird. That was weird as hell. That's the internet telling you to stop watching CNN. Bro, it's not the... Ooh, the problem there wasn't me watching CNN. It happened right as I retweeted the Chinese embassy, bro. I swear to God. Chinese embassy, we don't back down. We are Mao Ning, spokesperson for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, says we are Chinese. We are not afraid of provocations. We don't back down. They dusted the old Mao tapes and brought it out. And the Chinese embassy in the U.S. said, we don't back down. And I quote retweeted, I said, they're aura farming with Mao. I'm losing it. And then boom, I got blasted into orbit. Suspicious F right there. Very suspicious F. The CIA hit my stream with the heart attack gun. Stop watching the Clinton News Network. I thought you were apolitical. Don't worry, brother. I'm an American patriot. Are you Chinese CIA? I fucking wish, dude. Are you kidding me? Are you joking? It's called Havana Syndrome. It's called Havana Good Time, chat. All right, let's keep going.
Xi Jinping. This decision by him of how to respond to this is just as much economic as it is political. The good news, as you talked about, Xi Jinping has had time to prepare. We saw this coming, of course. But they have a controlled economy. So they have levers that they can pull in order to shield their economy from tariffs. So, for example, they're already devaluing the currency just to make their exports a little bit cheaper. And that's why we're seeing Asian markets, especially the Shanghai Composite, rallying on the hope that perhaps there is going to be a deal here.
Yeah, so who has the upper hand in this, we'll call it a chess match right now, and we will see more evidence of that today.
We'll see.
It's great to see you, Zane. Thank you so much. John.
All right, joining us now, Jason Furman, the former chair of the Council of Economic Advisors and now a professor of economic policy practice at the Harvard Kennedy School. Professor, thanks so much for being with us. So is this a case now of no harm, no foul, the tumult over?
Absolutely not. This is above and beyond what the president campaigned on doing. And at the time, most people discounted those threats and thought he'd only fulfill.
This surely this is a sign of stability and order when you got a situation where people are like, oh, no one believed his campaign promises. I mean, come on now. Just a normal political process here in the United States of America where you just go, remember when he said tariffs is the most beautiful word in the English language? No one fucking believed him. They thought maybe it's like the 10th most beautiful word in the English language. Oh, man, we all thought he was. Why would you think that? Why would you think that he was playing around? This shit is so goddamn annoying. This cannot be the underlying basis of your political identity where you go, I'm just voting for this guy because of vibes. I hate this. I'm voting for this guy because of the goddamn vibes. I don't think that he's serious or sincere about his policies, or rather, I haven't really thought thoroughly what would happen if he implemented these policies. Like, not to self-glaze too much here, but I've been fucking screaming about this for a year at this point. Since he started talking about the tariff shit, I was like, this is going to have a really long-lasting, damaging impact on global trade. How do you not see that? It's the same principle behind mass deportations. You can't do that because it's like, one, incredibly inhumane, two, logistically impossible to do, and three, would collapse American agriculture overnight. for no reason either, by the way, for no good reason. Like that's not a real fear that people have. It's just completely unwarranted. It improves nothing. And it's just about being a bad person, being mean for the sake of cruelty in and of itself. It pisses me off. It pisses me off when people are just like, well, I didn't think that he was going to do this. I thought he was just joking. Okay, well, I thought he was going to do this, but I didn't think the impact would be this bad. It's like, well, you're a fucking dumbass then. What do you mean? There are plenty of people who knew that it was going to be bad. What are we talking about? What are we talking about? What the hell is this?
Part of them. Tariffs are still very, very high, and we're about to start seeing it in the real economy.
That's a long-winded way of calling Trump supporters stupid. No, Democrats have this stupid dog in them too. There's a lot of people who have this stupidity in them, and it's partially a consequence of, like, I guess, reaping the rewards of living here in the United States of America and having some semblance of stability for so long despite unstable leadership time and time again. But like, or a lack of confidence in any form of governance actually following through on their agendas. Americans just don't know a world where a politician says they're going to do something and they follow through on it. That's what it is. And they also quite literally do not believe the impact of said legislative agenda until it happens. We saw this. We saw this with the abortion stuff. Every single fucking politician said abortion is murder. Abortion is murder. Every single fucking right-wing politician said abortion is murder. Abortion is murder. You can't do murder. And then, lo and behold, Roe v. Wade gets overturned after the Supreme Court justices straight up lied to the American public and said it was a super precedent. But then they reversed it. And then everyone was like, okay, some murder is cool, actually. I think we got to do some exceptions for murder. Why did they do that? Why did they all of a sudden go, it's not actually all murder. Some of the murder is awesome. I love when you do the murder, actually. Abortion is murder, but some murder is great. Like, why did they do that? It's because people immediately went, oh my God, I never really thought that if abortion was illegal, that my daughter might need to get an abortion one day. And due to a medical complication, for example, and not be able to get it and die. Like, that's fucked up. That's really bad. I didn't think about this. It's like, why didn't you think about this? It's kind of the whole point of why we shouldn't be setting these like erroneous standards for no fucking reason, because it's going to be ultimately harmful. That's like, there are plenty of people who've been yelling about this for years. I've been yelling about this for years. Same shit with the tariffs. Same shit with mass deportation. Same shit now with the erosion of due process and the erosion of the First Amendment. These are concepts that are literally being taken away from all of us right now. And it's alarming. And I keep ringing the alarm bells. But if you ask the average American, they have no ability to understand that this is fucked up. They have no ability to think, well, this might actually harm me down the line. Americans are always playing catch up. Liberals and Republicans alike, liberals and conservatives alike, they're always playing catch up, where they go, oh man, I voted for this guy. I think what he's doing is good. I didn't realize that it would inevitably impact me. Shit, the leopard's eating my face party, always.
In the prices that families pay are going to be doing.
All the reporting, it was the bond market that spooked the president and forced his hand, led him to blink here. Can you explain, for all of us who may not have taken Act 10, exactly what was happening with the bond market and if those fears are still over, or fears are still existent, I should say?
Yeah, normally when you're going into a downturn, you would think that the Fed is going to cut interest rates and interest rates are going to come down. But what was really scary was that interest rates were going way up. And that's because investors around the world, reportedly some of them in Japan, but around the world and in the United States, were more nervous about the United States. They didn't trust our country. They didn't want to lend to our country. And because of that, that made interest rates go up, just like any other borrower who's not particularly creditworthy is going to end up with higher interest rates.
In the New York Times reporting that the president knows what that means. As someone who worked in real estate, when interest rates start going up, it just gets harder to do business. What do you think China sees here? We just heard from Zain Asher on this. Do you think they see this as a chance now to talk? Do they feel isolated, or do they see now that the president will blink when facing certain pressures?
The president has shown over and over again a willingness to blink. In his first term with China, when he would negotiate deals with them, it was largely deals about how to not escalate further.
Oh, look at that. After yesterday's pause, I was like, okay, back from the edge, but I'm still worried about recession dynamics taking hold. I didn't think that 24 hours later, we'd be back to staring at this chart of long-term yields. I mean, part of the issue is that I shouldn't even be calling it a pause. It's giga tariffs on China. Yeah, this is what I mean. Yesterday, we all looked at the market being green, and I told you this is an insane moment, okay? This is an insane moment where people are very clearly demonstrating that the stock market does not have the fundamentals baked into it, where very clearly people are just hoping on a dream. They're wish casting for stability when no semblance of stability exists. I told you this. Like, it's crazy. It's crazy to go, yeah, actually, things are fine now because we only have 10% tariffs universally and like 200% tariffs on China, our largest trading partner. That's crazy. What do you mean? What the fuck do you mean the stock market is supposed to normalize in that process? What are you talking about? It was just a hope and a dream, dude. People were just wish casting stability. I don't know how so many intelligent people looked at the situation and went, oh, it's rebounding. Finally. Okay. There's a brief moment of respite for 90 days. It's like, no, there isn't. There literally is no respite here. Are you fucking stupid? I mean, I guess the answer is yes. I don't know if it was stupidity, denial, or naivete. It's crazy. Jeff Stein from WAPO says, I know this is an incredibly old and boring point now, but it's remarkable watching how the ostensibly data-driven stock market is driven so heavily by vibes. Shout out to Kyla Scanlon. Nothing has changed from yesterday's surge to today's decline, other than everyone realizing the tariffs on China are now 125%, even though this was known yesterday. That's what I mean. I am not a finance guy. As Stocky correctly pointed out, I don't know shit about the stock market. But the one thing I do know is that it is psychotic to assume that things got better when we are trying to use a hatchet to sever ties with our fucking largest trade partner. Are you stupid that you thought things were going to get better? It is so obvious an indication of the market's irrationality right here with what happened yesterday and all these dumb fucks posting the green as though it's any indication of where things are going. Like, what are we talking about? You don't have to be a fucking finance bro or even understand market fundamentals to look at the situation and go, hey guys, I know a lot of people have this unfounded confidence all of a sudden because Donald Trump at least backed away from some of the most meaningful parts of his agenda. But things are still pretty bad, don't you think? At this point, it's like they want the line to keep going up because that's all they've known. So they'll hold on to any glimmer of hope to make the line go up. It is quite literally held together by a bunch of people hallucinating an alternative reality. A quick read of Stock Trading for Dummies would empower the average educated adult with all the knowledge they need to realize how fucked the situation is. VIX and VVIX are diverging from each other, i.e. professionals are out of the market right now and retail traders are not known as the most rational actors in the financial markets. Anyone that says this is coping. You are coping. If you think institutional traders do not also engage in this exact same irrational behavior, you are wrong. You are unimaginably wrong. First and foremost, I don't even believe that retail traders could automatically hit and cause the market to move in this direction in this decentralized manner where they all just came to the same conclusion. Okay? You cannot do that without institutions. That's number one. Number two, institutional traders also engage in the same exact irrational behavior. The exact same irrational behavior. 100%. So the reality of the matter is the market movements from yesterday to today are not just done by retail traders losing confidence or gaining confidence out of nowhere, whereas like institutions themselves like are still solidly on board with the market fundamentals and they knew that this wasn't going to happen, blah, blah, blah. No, that is not That's not real. It's just like beyond cope. You are doing the same. I think you're doing the same, demonstrating the same naivete that I talk about all the time, which is the infallibility of institutions. The idea that like no matter what happens, there's some adults in the room and they're still holding on to the concepts that I learned in my textbooks. Okay? Asma's chat is cheering for the 125% tariffs and wanting to go up to 400%. I love that. They're so stupid. I love that. I love how fucking stupid Asmongold's fan base is. It's amazing. They are unironically bringing out the pitchforks to literally shove it in their own asses. There is nothing funnier to me than watching a bunch of fucking hogs cheering on initiatives that fuck them. Okay? It's funny. I'm sorry. It's fucking hilarious.
Rather than to de-escalate. But now we're starting from triple-digit tariffs on China in the United States, nearly 100% tariffs on the United States in China. It's really, really hard to picture how either of our economies will be able to function, deliver job gains, deliver benefits to consumers in the midst of a very, very extreme trade war. So some which way, someone's going to need to blink, or else we're both.
This is not real. Make showers great again. Go fuck yourself. That's not real. That's funny. Okay. If something goes down 10%, then an up percent, are you back where you started? No, because the decrease is from a bigger number. E.g., 100 minus 10 is 90. Plus 9 is 99. Huh? Down 10%, then up 10%. Then why is your e.g. not 100 minus 10, 90, plus 10, 100? Where'd the 9 come from? Oh my... What is going on? Why would it be plus 10 at that point? Does he think 10% of 90 is still 10? Does he think 10% means just 10 always? Like not 10%, but just 10, the actual number. No, I don't care. No. No. We're not doing this. I can't stare into the abyss. This is like when No. This is like when I watched videos of fucking people being like, how can the mirror see what's behind this towel? I can't do that. I cannot fucking do that. I am not doing that. Stop it. Stop it. There's already enough stupidity that I have to deal with on a fucking daily basis. What the fuck? There's already enough. We're laughing about people being like, hell yeah, make the fucking tariffs 400%, big dog. Yeah, I'll just grind harder. Like, people are like, yeah, make those tariffs 400%. I'll just fucking grind harder. Make the cost of living impossible to survive. I'll fucking survive somehow.
Going into recession.
Talk to me about what you are looking for, I guess, in the next hours and days. Everything's moving so quickly here. There's so many twists. But what are the next shoes that could drop in your mind?
I mean, to me, it's number one, are we hearing about more new tariffs? The president has talked about tariffs on pharmaceuticals, on semiconductors, on lumber. Is he still talking about... Number two, that 10% on every country in the world, that's pretty high. That goes on all our friends and foes alike, with the exception of Russia, which doesn't get it. Is that there to stay, or is that part of the negotiation? And then number three, what's happening with China?
This is CNN Breaking News.
And we begin this hour with President.
I do find it very funny that like everyone is operating with this though. Like liberals did this as well, and now Republicans were doing it yesterday, and everyone just goes, "Oh well, the market's green. That means it's good. Everything is good now." And then when it's red, they're like, "Wait a minute, why is everything red again? What is going on?" It's like, yeah, everything is confusing to you, of course, because you're stupid. Let me fix the problem here, okay? If you consistently look at market movements without any sort of care or consideration to long-term stability or instability, long-term results of the actions that the Trump administration is taking, you're going to be like, I don't get it. It's red and now it's green. What's happening? All the time. There was a brief moment where a lot of the Trumpian guard, the Trumpian vanguard was coming out and being like, obviously, market volatility is not indicative of like what happens in the economy broadly. And it was awesome. It was funny hearing them say things that I've been saying for years, right? Of course, they didn't fucking believe it. And they were just saying it because in the interim, they just wanted to defend Donald Trump. That wasn't a principle that they had. They hadn't thought it through. I'll give you a great example, okay? Here's a great example of how the stock market performance doesn't necessarily indicate long-term stability or health for the overall economy, especially for the working class. Mergers and acquisitions. When big company takes over smaller company and then engages in layoffs and, let's say, lays off 20,000 employees, they call that eliminating redundancy. The stock performance is great in that process. But the reality is 20,000 people just got fucking laid off. Do you think that's a good thing? No, of course not. So clearly, this is, in the most reductive term, in the most reductive ways possible, a great indication that maybe the stock market is not reflective to the living conditions of the average American. Perhaps that is a good starting point for all of you. Take that home with you and think about that and expand on that information when you go on this journey. It's pretty basic stuff, really. I don't know how else to explain it to people, really. Like, what can I do other than that? That has been debunked. If you knew Trumponomics, you'd know that. Yeah, my bad.
President Trump set to meet with his cabinet as a key part of his second-term agenda hangs in the balance right now up on Capitol Hill. And after a week of tariff whiplash here in the United States as the president's trade war clearly intensifies.
And as we know, Wall Street doesn't like the uncertainty, right? Wednesday's green bounce after the tariffs were paused, that has turned into Thursday's red reality check. Let's go to CNN Chief National Affairs Correspondent Jeff Zeleny at the White House. And Jeff, you have reporting along with your White House colleagues about how this all came to be with the pause and this cabinet meeting today as well.
Good morning, Pamela. It certainly was an extraordinary turn of events yesterday, not even quite 24 hours ago, but we have learned that it certainly was the advice that the president was receiving from some members of his cabinet, including the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, who will be in that room today when the cabinet is meeting. He was the one, of course, who was really sounding the alarm and telling the president how deep the bond markets were reacting to the president's sweeping tariff plan. So one thing that this whole situation has really shined a light on are the differing pieces of advice that the president was hearing from Scott Bessent, for example, the Treasury Secretary, versus his longtime trade advisor, Peter Navarro, who was urging the president not to make negotiations. A big question, though, heading into this cabinet meeting, is Elon Musk going to be in the room? We have not seen much of him in recent days, but he's been very active on social media. And his view on this sweeping tariff plan was that it was not good for the economy. So he was throwing stones, quite literally, at the trade advisor. But the top economic advisor...
Is it real that EU is considering removing tariffs on China EVs? Yeah, but I don't think that they're going to. I think what is going to happen, this is my suspicion, this is my speculation, wee-woo speculation alert, is that they want some kind of price adjustment from Chinese companies in general. Like, they don't want China to enter the market with uncompetitive, with prices that are impossible to compete with from the European market. So they're going to probably want they're probably going to want BYD to increase their prices on their end so that they can maintain trade and allow China to continue manufacturing, make up for some of the manufacturing output that they lost from the United States of America in the short term. But I think it's more so a bluff regardless. I think it's EU bluffing against America. That's what I think. Yeah. EU wants price minimums, exactly. Because there's no way that they would allow China to enter the European market with the prices that China wants to enter the market with, because then they would actually get fucking cleaned out. No one would purchase a European car ever again inside of the EU. I hope it's not just a bluff, and I hope it is a signal for a long-term sustainable trade partnership with China and perhaps even another indication that the major market of the European Union is moving away from American hegemony into the comfortable bosom of the Chinese empire. The 100 years of Chinese prosperity is upon us. So we shall see. Do you think this will strengthen BRICS and allow for a partitioning of the economy and solidifying socialist power? We'll see. All I can think of is that the more the EU moves in the direction of China, the more insane Trump will get.
Kevin Hassett talked about the cabinet meeting earlier like this.
USTR has informed us that there are maybe 15 countries now that have made explicit offers that we're studying and considering and, deciding whether they're good enough to present to the president. The Chief of Staff's office has asked all the principals that have, skin in the game to come and discuss what their views are about how this should go. And that's what the purpose of the meeting is.
So the offers that Kevin Hassett is talking about there are from allies like Japan, South Korea, and others who have opened lines of communication trying to lower their tariff percentage with the president. So this is all coming as the trade war is very much still on with China. There is no question about that. But the U.S. is trying to sort of circle.
Interesting, Jeff. Kevin Hassett is also pushing back on suggestions that President Trump actually manipulated the markets when he told people it was a, quote, good time to buy only hours before announcing the pause. Democratic Senator Adam Schiff of California says he plans to write to the White House about it. How is the administration defending itself?
Well, if there is no question that timeline of a few hours between when the president sent that message, be cool, time to buy, versus about 1:18 yesterday afternoon East Coast time when the president sent out his message about a pause on this. What happened during that intervening time? Did anyone have a heads up at all? Kevin Hassett, again, the president's top economic advisor, told us a short time ago that there was no insider trading or any type of activities going on, but Democrats on Capitol Hill are not convinced of that. But Wolf, the reality is, since Republicans control Capitol Hill, there will not be any type of a committee investigation. However, this will be something, a moment in time, really those 4 hours in time yesterday that will be viewed in the coming days. But for now, at least, the trade war on against China, the cabinet meeting is underway shortly, Wolf.
All right, Jeff Zeleny at the White House for us. Jeff, thank you.
So let's check in now with CNN business and politics correspondent Vanessa Yurkevich. She is standing by at the New York Stock Exchange right now.
Yeah, well, listen, markets are down this morning coming off that enormous rally yesterday. And I spoke to a veteran trader, Peter Tuchman, just a short time ago. And he told me that the real reaction of Wall Street really comes the day after. Yesterday was this relief rally. And today, reality has set in that we are still very much in the middle of a trade war with still historically high tariffs. That 90-day pause on those high reciprocal tariffs are very welcome news to traders here. I spoke to a few yesterday after the market closed who said that anytime the Dow is up nearly 3,000 points, that is a good day. However, today they are facing down high tariffs on China, that 125% tariff.
Like, what happened? Did they open up their fucking eyes? Like, this is what I don't understand. This was the reality yesterday. What happened? This is why I had that conversation with Nate Tankes where I was like, the money is fake. Okay. Like, I'm sorry, you will never convince me that this is real. Okay, the value in the stock market is just like is firmly held together by anything but confidence. It's just crazy.
You have those tariffs in place, 25% on autos. And then, of course, you have that 10% universal tariff that is.
Wait, people are saying it's 145. Did Trump increase it again? What happened? Is that like a thing? I mean, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Once you go past like 40% or even 30%, really, it truly doesn't matter. You are just firmly committed. You're just firmly committed to severing trade ties with China. And I think that it's going to get even crazier. I think America is, you want to know what I think Donald Trump's going to try to do? Here's a couple things that Donald Trump could still try to do. One, try to stop Chinese companies from being traded on. That's number one. But more importantly, try to also enforce some kind of trade embargo or rather punishments on secondary markets that work with China, which was his initial goal with these universal tariffs, like when he was slapping Vietnam with stuff. I think that it's not just about America not trading with China. It's about the rest of the world not trading with China. So I do think that I do think that there's a couple more tools in his tool belt of mania where, you could, I don't even know how the delisting stocks would work. I don't know. I'm not a stock market guy at all. But I do think that the American initiative in this situation would be the American move in this situation would basically be to just do North Korea shit to China. But you can't do North Korea shit to China. Do you see what I'm saying? You can't do North Korea or Iran to China. China is far too powerful and far too important to the entire trade regime that we have designed for the past 40 fucking years. China has become undeniable, impossible to avoid. Forex Live, Trump admin. Oh my God. Yep, there it is. Trump admin is moving towards a possible delisting of Chinese public shares. This is psychotic, dude. They are fucking psychotic. Are you joking? Here's a report from Charlie Gasparino at Fox Business. Sources: Trump administration is moving towards a possible delisting of Chinese public co-shares on U.S. exchanges. Sources: incoming SEC Chair Paul Atkins. Dude, everything we're doing to China, I wish we would do to Israel, by the way. It would be so warranted to do to Israel, and yet we will never do that to Israel. Oh my God. The dream, baby. The friggin' dream. Helicopter crashed into Hudson. The chopper broke off midair and dropped. Oh my Lord. Everything is happening. Everything is happening all at once. ABC has a special report on it.
Which,
okay, I'm not going to cover it right now.
A pretty rough current.
Yeah,
I'm not going to cover it right now. I'll get to it in a little bit. Let me finish this at least.
In effect right now, and you see the markets there right now, the Dow down about more than 2.5%. Look at the NASDAQ down more than 4%. The S&P down almost 3.5% there. But the big questions that I'm hearing from traders here today are sort of, what are the off-ramps here to this trade war? What are the negotiations that need to be happening between these more than 75 countries in the administration? And then especially looking at China, because so many of the companies that are traded on Wall Street here have direct ties to China, get many of their products from China. So what
about taking back Chinese-owned U.S. land? It's nothing. What are you talking about? Chinese-owned U.S. land is so minuscule. Go ahead. Claw it away from the Chinese investors. Like, what are you talking about? That's just fucking meme shit. It is literally podcast meme shit, dude. Stop listening to podcasts. Holy fuck. China is like not even in the top 10 of land buyers in terms of foreign investment. It's nothing. It is so insanely marginal. It is so tiny. It is so minuscule. It's nothing.
does that look like? One analyst said to me this morning that some of these negotiations could actually center more around other things, non-tariff related things, something like with China, maybe a deal with TikTok or even a deal with the Panama Canal. Those are the questions that they have. What is the off-ramp for this trade war for the president? So here today, I would say less uncertainty, but still a level of uncertainty about where this trade war is going, Pamela. Obviously, we're not seeing sort of those dramatic swings this morning that we've seen in the past several weeks. That is because very much investors here know we're still in the middle of this. Obviously, though, good sign that that 90-day pause went into effect just yesterday, Pamela.
Yeah, I mean, clearly investors are sending the signal, though, that they understand this is far from over. There's a lot to be worked out, but you do have businessmen like billionaire Balai celebrating this.
Yeah, Bill A. Packman, Bill Smokes Crackman, absolute dummy. Every single one of these people that are supposed to be like brilliant investors and all this shit, every single one of these people have shown that they are delusional morons. They are just regime enjoyers, even if the regime is shanking them. All the way from Elon Musk to Bill A. Packman, okay?
Pause. He was among the business leaders who had turned on the president over his tariff plans. He's now praising the pause and implementing many of those taxes. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, well, we know the past several days leading up to these reciprocal tariffs going into effect, Bill Ackman, who, as you mentioned, is a billionaire, he is the founder of a huge hedge fund, he was saying that these tariffs would be, I'm reading here, quoting, economic nuclear war. So he said that leading up to Wednesday's tariffs, and he was warning that this could be really terrible for the economy. Now that the president has reversed course and put this 90-day pause into effect, he is coming out and saying that, yes, he was raising concern, but he's praising the president in what he calls the art of the deal, that the president actually did right by this deal. And Bill Ackman and other billionaires were raising those alarms for several days, but many of them are seeing a little bit more of a relief here that the president has maybe listened to advisors, as Bill Ackman said, and really sort of put into place more of a better roadmap for billionaires right now that really, you know, they play in the stock market. They obviously have their businesses tied to the stock market, Pamela. They can be against him one day and with him the next day as they see their stocks rise, Pamela.
All right, Vanessa Yurkevich, thanks so much.
Let me bring in Anna Stewart. So, Anna, we've been seeing European stocks rallying, not just on the news that the Americans were pausing these tariffs for 90 days, but also the fact that the Europeans were going to reverse the retaliatory tariffs that they put into effect yesterday as well. Take us through that.
Yeah, look at that rally. It's pretty strong, and that's largely because, of course, European markets were actually closed when the 90-day pause was announced. So they didn't have a rally yesterday. We're seeing it here, and I think it is being sustained as well by the fact that the EU is also going to pause for 90 days. Although the EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said that while they will pause for 90 days, if negotiations are not satisfactory, our countermeasures will kick in. So a bit of a warning there. But I think for European investors, this is possibly the first time that it's actually felt like almost a reality that perhaps the US administration will negotiate with them. Up to this point, the EU has, for instance, offered 0 tariffs on industrial goods, on autos, and that's frankly been ignored. So perhaps this is an opportunity. Very different story elsewhere in the markets. Of course, Wall Street has opened lower today. The relief rally there is over, and by a number of metrics, you know, even from JP Morgan not shifting their outlook in terms of recession, keeping it at 60%. Some of these assets suggest that people are still pricing in the likelihood of a recession. Oil prices steeply lower at this stage, about 4.6% lower.
It's like, see, I did it. I lowered the oil prices. I promised you I would do it. Demand might be down in the future due to a complete collapse of global trade, but believe me, oil prices are down. I fixed it.
Under the $60 barrel. It could finish today at the lowest.
It's ironic because the last time that oil prices went down incredibly, Trump was president again, and he literally also constantly pointed to that. It was COVID. Donald Trump was like, remember how low oil was? Yeah, during COVID? Thanks, man. Yeah, it was awesome. I remember. Fantastic. People's relatives are just fucking dying in the hospital. It was awesome. Thank you, sir. You did it. Oh, it's amazing. He's doing it. He's doing it. I told you I would bring oil prices down, and I'm doing it again.
It's been since April 2021. We're also seeing that the US dollar fell sharply, and the bond yields, the 10-year bond yields in the US, which, of course, President Trump was concerned about, we haven't seen much of a shift there. So we've had this huge reversal, but actually a lot of the fears, a lot of the yippiness, if that is even a word, is still out there.
A lot of golf players will know exactly.
I want to turn now to Michael McKee, our international economics and policy correspondent, who has been, listening in as the president and his team have been speaking, but also paying very close attention to the 30-year bond auction that we saw just a moment ago, and also the undulations that we have seen and continue to see in the markets, both in the bond market and the stock market, and to the economic data that we got as well, the CPI data this morning. Mike, I just want to get your reaction to what you heard there and maybe give us your sense of sort of what these next 90 days look like. Here we have an administration eager to broker deals, as we heard there in that meeting. That's meeting with the realism of how difficult it is to broker trade deals historically, all the nuances and details that go into them.
Well, it took a year, more than a year, to renegotiate NAFTA, and almost nothing was changed in the USMCA. So I think you have to approach what this administration is saying about these deals with a great deal of skepticism. For example, we heard there, and we've heard from others in the administration, that 70 countries have approached the administration. But Kevin Hassett said this morning on...
Yeah, also, my favorite part about the 70 countries that have approached the American administration is that they won't reveal who the countries are. So, like, we don't even know if they approached it. I'm sure they did. Like, plenty of them have. Like, Japan, we know for a fact, approached America. And South Korea is another one. But it's like, I don't even fucking know if they... Dude, please stop. Please stop posting this. I got it. Xi Jinping unravel meme. Come on. Come on. Stop spamming. You just got auto-modded. I'm once again finding myself in this weird predicament. Because on the one hand, I'm like watching a lot of this neoliberal design unravel in real time as contradictions heighten in the hands of a madman hell-bent on death and destruction. But also on the other hand, I can't even entertain this notion for too long because I recognize the impact that it will have on the average person in the United States of America and also around the world. It is very frustrating. It is very frustrating because, like, this sort of instability or some semblance of volatility would always happen. The you need the medicine, right? Like when the body is ill and we heal the body, we do surgery, you need a little bit of medicine, and in the process, like, yeah, there's going to be some harm in the short term, but it's for a grand design. It's for health and stability in the long term. Like, that part is true. It's just Donald Trump is not doing that. He's not doing that at all. So what's frustrating about this is, once again, he's just kind of fucking up the global economy because he's bored, if that makes sense. That's he's just, yeah, when I fuck up the economy because I'm bored, when I kill the global economy because I'm bored is kind of what's happening. You using the sick patient Trump analogy? No, it's not the wrong analogy. That analogy is not incorrect, except the patient has cancer and Trump chopped off the fucking leg of the patient for no reason. So the cancer still remains, and now you're legless.
One of the other networks that there are 20 countries. So, I mean, what is the actual truth? And what are we actually going to get out of it? And how much of this is going to be tariff reduction? And how much of this would have anything to do with non-tariff barriers? I mean, remember, they went after the Europeans and the British for having a VAT tax. Does that get addressed? Yep. So a lot of reasons to be skeptical about what they're talking about. But what we can say will happen.
Do I see an off-ramp for the Trump-China shit? Yes, I do. Given China's restraint in all things global trade, in all things foreign policy, I think China offers a aesthetic victory to Trump. But I don't even know if I could see this. I could see China offering a fig leaf to Donald Trump, like opening up a factory, like a BYD factory or some shit in America. I could see that. Maybe sweeten the deal with TikTok on the side, just to stop Trump from killing himself. And that's only because fig leaf, olive branch, whatever. I could see them doing that. It's just, I don't think that America would be convincible, regardless of what China does. And that's number one. And number two, stop with the fantasy. I'm just saying, I this is not what I think is going to happen. This is not what I'm saying is going to happen. You asked me if there's an off-ramp here, and even though all of these alternative scenarios likely, the highest likelihood of all of these alternative scenarios that are still incredibly unlikely would be China trying to give Donald Trump like an aesthetic victory here. Having said that, I don't think America would take that and then go, okay, we're good now, because Donald Trump has shown once again that he is not interested in reason.
Happen is if these other tariffs that are already in place stay in place, we will see prices go up and we will see the economy slow down. It's going to be very interesting. These are very heavily weighted, obviously, towards China, and we import a lot of stuff from China. So how is that going to affect the American consumer's psyche if they can't get things from China?
Well, and investor psyche as well. After the remarkable gains of yesterday, the best day since 2008, obviously we have a massive reversal on our hands with 5% losses on both the S&P.
I do want to say something here, but like, if Donald Trump hadn't done this, I know for a fucking fact, you will never convince me on this, I know for a fact that China would just not fuck up the bag and would continue doing what it's doing without actually escalating or at any point trying to undermine American hegemony. There is 0% chance. They want stability. They want stability because in that stability as the dollar is still the superpower, they get to do things within this system that allow Chinese prosperity to fucking happen. I don't think China shill, okay, well, this is perhaps one of the many instances where we are in my moment of vindication. Like, you're living through my China shill vindication moment, and yet you're still saying I'm a China shill. It's pretty funny. I have found myself vindicated many times over on a lot of the things I speak about in terms of foreign policy, in terms of American long-term instability. But this is like coming in here in this very moment as America is undermining its own hegemonic power in the hands of seemingly a fucking madman. And you're still over here being like, you're a China shill. Okay. I think you will arrive at my position eventually. Long-term watchers already know what my opinion is here, you know?
S&P 500 and even greater for the NASDAQ 100. And we know markets did play a role in the decision-making of President Trump yesterday, though he was specifically concerned about the bond market, talking about queasiness, Mike. And I wonder if a little bit of that queasiness has been abated, not just by the tariff moves, but by once again, for a long-duration Treasury auction, the 30-year yield, it looks like demand was a bit better than expected.
Yeah, the 30-year comes in reasonably strong. It stops through 2.7 basis points, about what we saw with the 10-year yesterday. It does suggest that people are out there looking for duration. Dealers took less. Directs, though, took a lot more than they did yesterday. Direct bidders and indirects were down a little bit from their average, but still relatively strong. So
tariffs are an incredible litmus test. Nearly every reasonable person on the left hates them, and nearly every dumbass on the left defends them. I will grudgingly give an exception to actual elected polls in the Rust Belt, but among influencers is undefeated. This is appropriate. Hasan is not a fan of free trade. Democrats should not be in favor of free trade. The only thing free trade benefits is capital owners. I mean, it's true. What annoys me, the shit out of me, is that this guy's a third worldist. He's arguing that the global poor are ripping us off while saying his whole thing is protecting the global poor. Wait, what? No, I'm not saying that the global poor are ripping us off. What are these people saying? Do they purposely misunderstand my point? At no point have I defended Donald Trump, by the way. So that's what's really funny. I feel like more people are China pilled after the red nose shit happened. At least they have some stability. We don't have that. Yeah. It's Jeremiah Johnson's a moron. Pay him no mind. He's part of the Armand Domalewski dumbass brigade. Yeah, I mean, founder of some New Liberals, writing at Infinite Scroll. This person has blocked me. I didn't even know what the fuck this is. So it makes sense that this guy's got a globe on his Twitter username. I'm not surprised that he has, one, the wrong opinion, and two, can't comprehend the things that I'm saying. Why are you always getting blocked? Liberalism is inherently reactionary. They're just, a lot of these like globehead accounts are just basically gay Nazis. When push comes to shove, they openly demonstrate their disdain for the global South, for the working poor of the world, and the working poor in their own countries too.
Not a major change in the auction statistics, but a well-received auction in this case, as was the 10. So that may supply a little more confidence to people in the fixed income markets about foreign demand and overall demand for U.S. Treasuries. There's been some talk that people were backing away from investing in the U.S. I think the equity markets are reflecting what normally happens in these kinds of situations where you have a big turndown. This is what we've seen before, where you get these rallies and then stocks go back down again. Very much the pattern after 2000.
Libs are big mad about your take. They're pancake waffling it to say you support Trump. Tariff equals Trump and Trump equals bad, according to them. I mean, Trump does equal bad. At no point have I defended Donald Trump's tariffs regime. I think I've poured a lot of hours into talking about how fucking stupid Trump's tariff attitude is. You know? Stock market is broken. Asmongold doesn't understand Trump tariffs. Republicans cope with Trump tariffs. You see the latest John and KGP Harris video? Looks like the US aid was really cut. Yeah. Everything about that monster sickens me. He wants to end 5 billion lives. Even the House Democrats had a take saying tariffs aren't bad, but Trump's not doing them right, and the libs online lost it. Yeah, because the fucking liberals are... Someone trying to community note you. What is this? Your enemy isn't China, it's global capital. China represents 90% of global capital, making it the world's second largest economy. It is also the second in the world in terms of total number of billionaires. This goes back to the same paradigm of, oh, China is capitalist, actually. Okay, why don't we do Chinese-style development here then? No, that would be communist. It's always the same. It's literally the same. I'm like, okay, great. China is capitalist. We're capitalists. Let's do China. They're like, oh, no, that would be communism. Why would we ever do that? That's communism. It's also funny because it's like, it goes back to the same dynamic of like, China is going to collapse any moment now.